P1-18 we're going to introduce patterns, and we'll have a sketch pattern and we'll have a feature pattern. There will also be an optional for the feature pattern. There'll also be a revolve feature. So if you want to do both of them, that's fine. Only one is required. So whichever one you feel most comfortable with creating the geometry. So we pretty much have two circles and a base circle to put our, what are they, 15 millimeters, and our thickness is 20 millimeters. So again, we're in a metric part, so new, part metric. We can open up our sketch on the front plane, and we'll just start drawing circles. All right, so the first was a 100, so our radius should be about 50. Again, I can look at those, but yeah, that's close enough. I'm going to do one for the base circle and one for the OD. All right, so there is no construction circle, but if I right click, I still have that habit of right clicking, but left or right click on the geometry on the lower row, the second item in turns that to construction geometry. In SolidWorks, construction line, construction circle, and switching between for construction and center lines are the same terminology. So let's go ahead and add a few dimensions. So our OD was 160, and that will scale pretty much everything. 100, and our bolt circle was 65.26 as a radius. Okay, so when we have something pop up with a radius, it's pretty obvious, but if we right click again, display as radius, then, well, since my number is already in there, it should be out another decimal place. I can either type it back in, or I should be able to tell it times 2. All right, so you can do those the math in the modify box and have it generate for you. All right, our 15 millimeter, notice that I got quadrants, and my relations that are popping up are showing coincident and horizontal. Coincident to the bolt circle and horizontal to the origin. And click, click. We'll drop into the smart dimension, 15. And then I can go back to select. All right, so on our command manager, we have a linear sketch pattern. And most of the time I'm going to pre-select. So let's select the circle so it's already in as the object that we want to pattern. Hitting little down arrow is going to put us into the circular sketch pattern. And right now it's set to 4, so we need to tell it to go up to 6. All right, so if we dimension the radius, we've already built that geometry in. Angular spacing will turn off the equal spacing, and for the most part, we'll have to add 1 or 2 relations. So with a sketch pattern, we drag away from the bolt circle and drag it back. Pick any other one, drag it away and drag it back. And now when we go to extrude, we'll have all of that, that geometry. So extrude boss base, this is 20 millimeters, and I'll go ahead and reverse it. All right, so from our solid bodies, we have the ability to hide. So if you ever accidentally lose geometry, it's usually because you did hide instead of editing the sketch or editing the features. So I don't think I mentioned, so this is a good place to mention, we changed the dimension, but if I wanted to change in conditions or there was something that changed in other geometry that I need to edit this, we can get back into the boss extrude and change the parameters associated with that extrusion. All right, so if I hide this, then it basically disappears. In our boss extrude, it will take our solid bodies, our boss extrude will go to that kind of wire. And let's go to the top plane and open up a sketch. And this is going to be a revolve. So again, this is optional. It's an introduction of a new concept. So just, well, a couple new concepts. Be aware of that we're going to use these in future projects. So whenever we have a revolve, I'm going to go to center line. Again, that's same as construction line. Let's go vertical and infinite length. And I do want to have this maybe not overlay. I want to be able to compare the two, so I'm going to draw my rectangle. So anytime we're doing a revolve, we're cutting the part in half, we're cutting that half in half, and we're looking at what this quarter section would be, not including the whole. So we're just going to have a rectangle in this case that is out some distance to the height of the extrusion and the inner and outer diameter. So that was our 100, and that is our 160. Oh, and because it's a revolve, and something that I do naturally is make sure that if you want the diametral dimension, you are on the opposite side of the center line. If I'd drawn my rectangle over here, I would be dragging it over here. So in between the object and the center line is radial. To the opposite side of the center line gives you a diametral. So 160 and a thickness, and it still thinks it's in diameter. Notice that our icon for the pointer changed to a D and shows the center line. We're going to hit escape, and that's going to put me back into a linear dimension. 20 millimeters, and then escape one more time. We're going to do our select control select, so selecting the line and the origin is going to make it coincident. If I were to go point and point, that would be horizontal. Yeah, that's about the two that we have here. So since I'm in that one, I'll go ahead and make it horizontal. But a line and the origin would be coincident, and if there were other lines, then they could be collinear or tangent to if it was a circle or something. So different relations depending on your selection criteria. So features, we're going to revolve boss base. If I rotate that over a little bit, you're going to be able to see it. And we're not merging the result. I don't want this to be one piece. I do want them to be two separate bodies, which we'll talk more about in the future, but I also want to show you what happens when that second body shows up. So if you haven't activated this in your template, as soon as you create that second body, from hiding the boss extrude and then creating the second body, this should show up under its automatic condition. So we're going to open up a sketch. And before we did the sketch feature, and so I want to do a feature pattern. So we're going to go 15 on the diameter. From the center, I could go to the origin, I could go to either of the circles, and we had a radius of 65.26. All right, so this time we'll just stay with the radius. Last thing, I'm right-clicking and going into the select, and it's going to be a select, control select to the origin and make it horizontal. For the feature pattern, we're going to extrude cut and tell it to go through all. If for some reason the feature scope was needed, mainly that we were doing something through the other body as well, then we could activate and select those. Otherwise, you won't normally see the feature scope. All right, so that one goes through all. And now we need to set up the parameters for the circular pattern. All right, so cut extrude 1 is our feature. It needs an axis, so either the inside or the outside cylinder. We have 3 shown, and we're going to up that to 6, and that's going to give us our geometry. All right, so when I go back from the hide and show, the body 1, I'm going to have both of those items available. So this gives us an opportunity to do what if scenarios. Maybe I generate something that has a gasket between it. This is a flange that gets bolted together, and I just want to see how those two pieces work, and um, different design tools that we would be able to take advantage of.